Hey, welcome. Happy Sunday to the 27 of you that are here for my, I think, 46th live stream. What's happening? You guys good? I just got back from Canada. First of all, so that I don't screw up and do the same thing I did recently, just tell me if you can hear me. Sound okay, guys? Is it all good? Let me know. Let me know if there's any problems. Sounding great. Excellent. Everybody says you can hear me. Sweet. Hi from Seattle. What's up, Seattle? Haven't made it up there for a while. We got Scotland in the house. Great to see you guys. Video okay, sound okay. Well, we can move forward then. So yeah, I just got back from Canada, where I was doing two of my recording production for the Modern Guitarist clinics at Cosmo Music, just outside Toronto, and Lausanne. I hope I'm saying that right. In Ottawa, I had a great time. We had about, I think, pretty close to 170 people in Toronto, and then a little over 100 at the other clinic. So it was just terrific. Everybody was super cool. It was really nice to meet everybody that came out. So maybe some of you are out there right now. Said to a couple people that I met there, see you on Sunday. They said they always watch. So, but anyway, really fun. And I got to see a little bit of snow before Christmas, which is always nice. I'm gonna be in California this year for Christmas, so it was nice to get up there, and always nice to go home for a minute and experience a little chilly weather and all that. Although it was been cold in LA, it was rainy. Finally, we really needed that rain a month or whatever ago when the fires were. But it's been rainy and cool in LA too. Anyway, Ben says he missed the Cosmo event, had to work. We're going to put out a little bit of video from it. As I've said before, I don't like to have video out of the whole thing, because I feel like nobody will want to come to the actual live clinic. But there's going to be some stuff from it, a little bit coming out. They filmed the whole thing. Hi from Brazil, says Patricio. What's up? Nice to see you, Brazil. What's happening? What studio desk are you going to get for the new space? So yeah, I'm building a new room. I can show you photos a little bit. Let's see here. And the room's coming along. It's really close to being done. And it looks something like that right now. So lighting's in and stuff. That green wall is going away. The whole thing's going to get painted. The ceiling will be painted black, so all the tracks and stuff will just disappear. And then it's going to be off-white on all the walls. It's going to be nice. A lot more space than I had before. Room's about another 5 or 6 feet long from what I had for the last few years, and another foot wide, so it's substantially bigger, with probably a little bit higher ceiling as well. So I'm going to get an Argosy desk. I've had the same desk, that crap desk that, it's a fine desk, but I bought it for $50 used in probably 2005 or 6. So I've had that desk for forever, and it served me well. I got my money's worth, I think. But yeah, I'm going to get a brand new Argosy Halo desk. Really nice desk. It's got 8 rack bays on each side, so I can put all my rack mount stuff in there, and it's got a shelf as well that you can use kind of for half of one rack bay if you want. I can put my 500 series stuff in there. It'll be really nice. Speaker stands on it and stuff. So I just ordered that today, actually. Somebody's asking where the room is. I don't actually like to talk about where it is, because I like to keep some things kind of private, but it's kind of a loosely guarded secret, I guess. There's feet of snow in California. Just head up the mountains. Yeah, exactly. Now there is, right after all that rain. If I went up to Big Bear and stuff, I would assume there'd be a bunch of snow up there. I was just up there recently, and it was so dry. The lake was so low up at Big Bear Lake. So I guess this has probably helped out a little bit. Okay, Gabe says, let's get into some gear stuff. Gabe says, can you please recommend me low-profile patch cables for your pedal board? Do you know those new little ones that, so the Warwick folks, rock, what's it called? The Rock Bag. They make all that stuff, and they make those pedal boards as well. And I'm trying to remember the Warwick brand. But anyway, they've got these cables with the sideways jacks. They're pretty cool. They're so low profile. I don't have, You know what? It's the same company that makes this USB cable that I've got sitting right here. So the cable is super thin like this, right? Maybe this is, no, this just says Toman on it because it's a branded, but they made these and I picked one up at GitCon. Anyway, this is what the cable looks like. And then the end on it is flat, kind of like this. And then just picture this with a 1/4-inch jack coming out of it. So search the Warwick website. But they're pretty cool because they're so low profile. Now, other than that, I really like the Providence stuff because they make a cable. That's what's on my Helix-based pedal board that I have here at my feet right now. As I guess also, it's the same jacks that we used on a lot of my newest pedal board build. Anyway, they're a Providence, and they're a right angle jack, and they're very low profile. So look into the Providence stuff, and then also look at the rock board. That's right, the rock board cables somebody's mentioning there. Those are both good options. Lots of good options now for really, really small cables for pedal boards, but those are a couple I can think of off the top of my head. What did I learn from Rick Beato? Have you incorporated into your playing? Well, so I put up that video the other day, like 2 days ago or yesterday, I guess, the Rick Beato video. And it was kind of, I titled it Jazz for the Rock Guy, Jazz Concepts for the Rock Guy. No, I understand those concepts, but I was trying to kind of, for most people watching it, I was like, what could a rock guy garner from what Rick told me? And basically it's that, you know, that with jazz, you're constantly thinking about scales and arpeggios that fit over whatever the chords are, because you kind of have to, because there's usually a lot of chords flying by and key changes happening and stuff. So you've got to be really, really, really aware of sort of the harmonic structure of the music that you're playing. With rock, because it's simpler, many times I find people get stuck into a repetitive sort of blues box sort of thing and play licks. And that's the main difference, I think. Now, I don't know, you know, Rick just sort of reiterated that with, I know that, I know those concepts, but Rick explained it in a really nice way in that video, I think. So, and recently he did a great video where he talks a lot about what's great about Peter Frampton, and then he actually got to meet Peter, and who's also a friend of mine and stuff. And Peter's a terrific guy. But anyway, he was using Peter as an example of sort of a rock guitar player, but that plays with a lot of that conceptually. You know, he's very melodic, and so maybe check out the Rick Beato video about Peter Frampton and what makes his playing great. And I think it's kind of interesting. So. Anyway, thoughts on Edwards Les Paul guitars? They're very nice. They're made by ESP. Edwards is an ESP thing. You know, most of the ones I played are excellent. Spent a lot of time hanging out at the ESP store, actually, in Japan. And so I played lots of those Edwards guitars, and they're very nice. If you're thinking about getting one. Do I like the Strymon Zuma power? Yes, I do. The Strymon power supplies are great in my experience. I've got one on, actually that's what's on underneath the Helix board here is a Strymon, a smaller one, because that's all I needed for that board. What Argosy desk did I get, says Mike? It's a Argosy Halo, sort of the plus model that has a rack mount, you know, the rack mount bays, but then it's got shelves in the bays that you can use or not if you want. I'm only probably going to use one of them, but it comes with two. And then it also has the 2 speaker stands for my monitors. I already have speaker stands for my big speakers, so I'll just put my smaller monitors on the stands that it comes with. They sell for a couple grand from Sweetwater and stuff. I just ordered it from Sweetwater. Yeah. Okay. Moving down or up actually for a second here. Do I enjoy playing acoustic guitar? You know, I do. I don't play a hell of a lot of acoustic at home. That's what I find. I generally picking up the electric guitar, and that's the way I've always sort of been, for whatever reason. Kurt says, I do enjoy it though. I love playing acoustic when I sit down, especially when I learn something on it. You know, if I'm just picking it up and messing around, I can tend to get bored pretty quick. But if I sit down and I learn something cool, like you know, the time I sat down a while ago and I learned The Clap by Steve Howe, you know, fun stuff like that. If I sit down with an intent to pick up something new, then it's more fun for me playing acoustic. Can we get an Axe Effects 3 review? Well, actually, yes, I'm getting one. So I'll have one in the new studio. So I feel like I owe those guys a video of some sort for various reasons for a while now. So I'll definitely do something with Axe-FX3. I'm excited to try it. I haven't tried it yet. What's my favorite decade for music and why? Oh, that's a good question. Probably I feel like the 70s was the decade that recorded music really came into, when we think about, be it Genesis or Steely Dan or punk rock or, the way the Who sounded then or certainly Van Halen, AC/DC, recorded music. It's like they perfected recording by the 70s, I feel like. And so the best sound, Dark Side of the Moon, it's like the kind of, to me, maybe the greatest sounding music in many ways came from the 70s. The records that you want to put on and you can just listen to the whole thing the whole way through and not skip tracks. And there was something about the 70s, everybody was still, of course, recording analog, but it was Neve boards, Studer decks, 2-inch tape, all that stuff had happened then. 24 tracks or 16, and sort of, the 60s had happened. The explosion of creativity had happened thanks to the Beatles and Hendrix, and so now people were free to experiment and get different sounds and stuff like that. And then it just seemed like in the 70s everything coalesced into, if you listen to, be it Zeppelin or Heart, like Heart records, listen to how good they sound. They were so well recorded. Most of the Heart stuff was done up at Mushroom, I think, in Vancouver, which is still there. I think it's still there. I hope it's still there. They just knew how to record stuff by then. And so maybe that is my favorite decade in some ways, but I like stuff from all decades. Then in the 80s, things, I love the sound of 80s records too, but it's more of kind of it's like, oh, God, you don't really say that about the 70s when it comes to the sound of the records. We don't go like roll our eyes a little bit at that, heavy use of gated snare drums or the crispy things that kind of happened in the 80s, the more like sort of like high-endy, crispy, whatever, was going on in the 70s. You just go, oh man, that sounds good. It's sort of timeless and not timeless, but not dated. I don't know, just like well recorded. Yeah. Move down here and see what else we got here in the chat. Rockboard. Yeah, Rockboard is Warwick. That's right. See here. Okay. Mr. Campbell says he saw a band called the Magpie Salute live on Thursday in Glasgow. Mark Ford and Rich Robinson both had awesome tones through Fender amps. Mark was mainly playing his Bill Asher model. Mark's a great guitar player, as is Rich. So, and I've never heard them sound bad, that's for sure. Let's see here. Ben Combs, sorry if I say your name wrong, Ben, is saying he bought some MXR patch cables and they seem pretty good. Yeah, it'd probably be hard to go wrong these days. I like the Providence stuff a lot, and that's what's on most of my boards at this point. You can have pedals practically shoulder to shoulder with those flat jacks. Yeah, that's right. With the super flat cables, you can just bottom right up against one another. And that's kind of a new thing in the last year or so that I've seen those cables. What are my opinions on companies creating clone PCBs of pedals on the market? There's a website called Pedal PCB that creates and sells these PCBs for people to DIY. Well, if it's DIY, like you got to build it. If they sell it as a completed pedal, then it gets a little sticky. If it's like, hey, you can build it and you're going to have to put in some effort, how many guitar players are really going to do that? Ultimately, it's kind of a gray area, I guess. I mean, it's sort of like how I feel about Les Paul reproductions and things like that. I feel like, hey, if they're one-offs where it's like the guy makes 5 a year, it's not really hurting Les Paul sales. although it's technically not right to do, I guess, you know, but it gets more into the realm of, you know, it's like, is it cool once they're making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them and selling them? So that's where I would probably take the most issue with, like, you know, selling a direct clone of something, if it's mass marketed, or if it's like, hey, build it yourself. You can buy a kit, and, you know, I don't know how many people are actually going to do that. Okay. Let's see here. Preamp pedals are in right now. What are your thoughts? Or how, where in your chain would you try it? Well, a preamp pedal, I think, that's from Mike, by the way, you want to put it where the amp would normally go, generally speaking. If you're going to use a preamp and then go direct or something like that, and maybe use like an IR loader pedal or something for cab sim. So you want to approach it just like you would an amp. So, you know, essentially put it in your chain where the amplifier would normally go. If that means you're going to run stuff in front of the amp, you know, like delay and reverb, that's cool. Or you can put it after the preamp pedal if you want it to be a little more tame and a little more hi-fi sounding. Just depends, you know, how you want it to sound. Tim is in the top chat. Thank you, Tim. And he says, just want to say thanks for the videos. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Have I ever played an Orville guitar, says Dan. Yes, I have. Dave Friedman actually has a nice Orville 335. Very, very nice guitar. And I've played them in Japan quite a bit. And they're nice. I've almost bought one a couple times over there. For those that don't know, Orville is the brand that it's sort of like Gibson Japan. They're made in Japan, but they're directly affiliated with Gibson, and they're only Japan only thing. They just sell them over there in Japan. Let's see. Did I get the desk that Robert Baker has? Yeah, it's basically the same desk. I think Robert has the exact same one, the Argosy. Took me years to learn that method that Rick talked about with you, Pete. That's kind of the Rick Beato, you know, just talking about sort of the jazz approach of knowing all the different scales and modes and stuff like that. And every time the chords you're going by, you're changing, you know, the scales and arpeggios and stuff to suit the chord progression. Much less of a rock-based approach, much more of a jazz-based approach, although there's plenty of examples of rock guitar players that would approach things like that. And great one, I would think, is Peter Frampton. Do a lesson on how you play that fast part on Monster Movie. That's from Jack. Jack, there actually is one that you can get it on my website. The Monster Movie I completely break down in my Guitar Nerd lesson, which is available still on my website for $5. It's a 75-minute video lesson I did way back when I put out that record, and I completely break down the solo in Monster Movie if you wanted to learn it. Go to PeteThorn.com. Dan is in the super chat or top chat. I always call it the super chat. He says, favorite Celestion impulse response with a PT100 channel 2 crunch sound. Bought a bunch on Black Friday, but there's a lot to sift through. There sure is. I'm really liking the new Sir ones that they did, actually. So Sir had a Celestion create some impulse responses for their cabinets. So there's some official Celestion IRs now that are available with the reactive load that's coming out that's got IRs loaded in it. And they did some of the greenback loaded Sir cabinet. So it'd be like the custom audio 412 cabinet. They actually shipped their cabs over there to England and everything. And then Celestion loaded it up with the speakers of choice. So the greenback Sir 412 IRs are fantastic. And they're actually going to make me some custom mixes too, but more on that down the road. But anyway, that doesn't help you because you bought some already. I like the greenback all mix from Celestion. I like the creamback 65, you know, the M magnet style creamback. I like those, and I like the all mix. So it's 3 mics mixed into one. If we're talking about Celestion IRs, if we're talking about other like IRs like Owenhammer, the Friedman cab ones, Friedman 412 cab ones are really nice with the PT channel too. I've got some of those and they sound great. And that Guns N' Roses cab, it was like a cab they used on the Chinese Democracy album, I guess. It's got old 25s in it, I think, or something. Those sounded great to me. I tried a bunch of those too. So get some of the Ownhammer 412 GNR cab ones, and get some of the Friedman 412 ones from Ownhammer, and then from Celestion, the Greenbacks, Lynchbacks sound nice too, and G12H 75s, G12M 65 Creambacks. Those are all good. Sift through those for a few hours and you'll find some you like. It's also a matter of personal preference. I don't know if you guys find this, but when I use different IRs, I tend to, it's kind of interesting. I'll call one up and then I'll be like, ooh, I don't know if I like that. And then within 30 seconds, I'm getting used to the sound. And it's like, oh, maybe I do like it. It sounds kind of cool. And then I flip to another one. And it's like, whoa, it's like looking at a radically different color. And then all of a sudden you get used to it. So, give them a minute to kind of settle in, play through it for a second. And I find that kind of fascinating, the way the brain has to adapt for a second in your ears when I'm calling up different IRs. It's so fast, when you're moving microphones, it's not that fast. You'll put the mics on the speaker and pull up the faders or whatever, and then listen if the amp's out in another room, the cab's in another room, you play. You'll be like, oh, that sounds pretty good. It's a little bright or whatever. And then you'll move the mic a little bit, but it's minute changes. With IRs, it's like if you're just clicking through them, it's like these huge changes. And you're like, whoa, that's a radically different shade. That's a radically different shade. Does that one sound better than that? I'm not sure. It's kind of like that. And I know it can get confusing. With the Ownhammers, be sure and explore the quick start folder if you get some of those, because he gives you so many options, which is, if you like options, it's great because he's got a gajillion options that you're going to download if you buy an Ownhammer package. So many options that I can find it kind of tiring and overwhelming, actually. So I'll generally just go to his quick start folder, and then I'll find that, which is great that he does that, because then you can get the basic idea of what some of them sound like. And then if you're like, okay, he's got his Friedman 412 with M25, crunch mix IR05 or whatever will be loaded in his quick start folder. But there's 1 through 10, and they get from 1 to 10 is brighter to darker, and 5 is right in the middle. So he gives you that one, and if you sort of basically like the color of that, but you wanted it a little darker or brighter, now you can go into the regular folder and check out number 4 or number 6. So that's the way the Ownhammer thing works. But he kind of breaks it down by giving you a little bit of a simpler thing, with that quick start folder. It's nice. Have I had a chance to play the new Fender Performer Series guitars that came out this week? That's from Ben. No, I haven't been to a store this week. So busy with trying to get the studio done. I'm going to Home Depot a lot, but I'm not going to guitar stores. I've been to Home Depot like 400 times in the last month, and buying drywall and green glue and everything else, pipes and everything that you need to buy. Rockwool. Do you use some kind of whammies? Does it mean like whammy pedal? Question. For a whammy pedal, what I do is generally, if I need that, I'll use my Eventide H9 on the pitch setting, and then I'll use it with an expression pedal. So either that, or I should mention, I've had great success using just the Boss Harmonizer pedal, the blue one, and it's got whammy functions in it, and you can set it for kind of a momentary setting so that when you hit the pedal, it'll go up an octave, or hit the pedal, it'll go down a whole step, or whatever you want. You can set all the different intervals. And it's a great way to save space on your pedal board without having the big, expression needed. If you're doing just, a simple whammy thing, for example, the last time I got to play Like a Stone with Chris Cornell, I used that thing for that solo, and I just set the Boss pedal to have the right. You can set the ramp time so it goes more just at the right, speed, and it worked great. It was fine. So I had no problems using that thing to play that song, for instance. So check out the Boss. How many signature guitars do I have? That's from, I just have my one signature model. I guess you mean how many versions of my signature model do I have? I have one in each color. So I got 3 of them. Jack says, do a lesson on how you play that first part on Monster Movie. Oh, that I already said that. Yeah, that's the part you can get in the Guitar Nerd lesson off of my website. Guitar Nerd lesson has the whole Monster Movie solo broken down if you wanted to learn that. Should you get a Eventide H9 or Strymon Timeline. That's from Brexall. Well, the Eventide H9 is much more of a jack of all trades than the Strymon Timeline. So it depends. If you just want delay, you know, look at the DD500, the Timeline. If you need more of a jack of all trades, I would say look at either the new HX Stomp from line 6 or the Eventide H9, which will do everything. Now, some of the delays in the H9 are really cool, I think. I really like the vintage digital one. It sounds great to me. So there's some nice delays in an H9. But if you want a dedicated delay, I'd probably look at some different pedals that, you know, some of the nice things about having a Timeline are that you can get to the knobs right on the front of the pedal. With an H9, it does so much stuff that it's basically the software-based kind of editing with a couple of the simple sort of functions that you can put on the front if you want to. Do I use anything for noise suppression on my board? I have this cheap $30 noise gate that I bought in Japan that's like a Moore pedal. I think it's made by Moore. And I just use it on my lead preset. And I haven't actually been using it lately, but if I use a noisier sort of overdrive or boost for leads, it's nice to have on there. So I'll put it after the noisy pedal and before the amplifier in the same loop that the overdrive is that I'm using for my lead sound. And that works pretty well. I also carry a Rocktron, or not Rocktron, sorry, MXR Smart Gate in my accessory drawer of my guitar vault on the road. And if I ever get to a venue that just has crazy, like too much noise for whatever, you know, electromagnetic interference or whatever coming in the pickups of the guitar, I'll sometimes throw that on the input of the guitar. So first thing after my wireless system, I'll put that Smart Gate and just set it. I hate using them, but it works pretty good actually. Smart Gate is a good thing and it's cheap. It's good to have one around when you need it. Have I seen the Phil X Christmas video? I have. I just saw it this morning. He's a funny guy. I love Phil. And man, he's been busy traveling to Japan and then Australia. Busy. For a good price, ideas on guitars with a trim and ad blocking tuners or with them. I have one with a Floyd Rose trim. For a good price. Well, I don't know. I guess, I mean, for a good price, does that mean like under $1,000 or something? You can find Fender guitars that would be Mexico made. I know they make Strat stuff. It'd probably be the cheapest if you want for, you know, an inexpensive guitar that's maybe got a Humbucker in the bridge and 2 singles and a Floyd. There's certain Fender models and stuff I've seen that are Mexico made, and that'd probably be a good way to get a guitar like that stays in tune well. Yeah. Okay, good distortion pedal for using with a clean amplifier sims. Don't have an amp right now. Love your rock tones. Thank you. That's Chris. Off the top of my head, I mean, it just depends on what kind of sound you're going for. That number 5 distortion from Sinvertech, I did a demo of recently. I think it's $150 or something. It's a great sounding distortion pedal. Other ones would be the Sir Riot Mini. Awesome sounding. Really a great sounding pedal. I'm going to do a video this week. I'm looking here. It's the Ethos TWE1, which is what I'm using on my board right now. It's kind of like an ampy, ampy overdrive, ampy distortion. Kind of, simulates an amp sound pretty well. So I'll do a video for that pedal this week and get it done. I've owed them that for a long time now. I got to get it done. Other distortions that would sound good that you can check out, the new Bogner, maybe the Blue. Love that pedal. Let's see here. Somebody else from Brazil here. God, my eyes. It's actually not my eyes I figured out because I can read stuff with my glasses, but my contacts I got to get the guy to get my prescription right. It sucks. DOGOCCPV. That's your name. But anyway, cheers from Brazil, you say. What kind of fret wire are you using now? 6100 size. It's Jescar stuff that Sir uses, but it's like the size of a 6100. I really like the really big fret wire. 70s for music for sure. Says do. let's see. Yeah, I love the 70s for sure. Jesse's up in the top chat. He says he's looking at the Vox AC30 AC, or sorry, AC15 hand wired. Interested if I have any thoughts or tips for this amp. Getting a good Vox tone. It sounds great right out of the box. Mine came with a greenback, and I think that the Alnico speakers are sort of inherently important to that tone. So I put the folks from WGS sent me a speaker they wanted me to try, actually, and it sounds great. It's a 50 watt Alnico speaker that's kind of meant to be sort of like a blue, but with higher power handling. And so that's what's in there now, and it sounds really good. So depending on whether or not it's got a greenback or a blue in it, but really it's a great amp. Just get it and play it. And the normal channel is where it's at for me. I like it better than the top boost channel in that particular amp. And with the bright switch on, it's plenty bright, works great with pedals. Really, really good tone. You can hear it in a bunch of my, I've used it in quite a few videos, I think. I used it in the Aux video. And you can hear it clearly in that. I think it's a great sounding amp for the money, and it can be simpler with just basically the normal channels, one knob, and then you got the cut. That's it. Just turn up that channel. You got to kind of run it with the bright switch on because it's really dark with it off. But Mr. Campbell also says here, any tips for single channel tube amps that have gain and volume? Do you like to push the preamp or power amp more? Well, I guess I was just talking about one knob, single channel. It's got two channels, but you know what I mean. Single channel tube amps that have gain and volume. Single channel. I mean, I guess that's kind of a Friedman Dirty Shirley. Great sounding amp. And I do actually like to run the Dirty Shirley sometimes with the master all the way up and the gain low. It's got a beautiful clean sound that way. And if you run the gain up and the master low, of course, you get more distortion. So yeah, balance is always good. I think it was last time that we did this, I did a little demonstration of the more power tube sort of distortion, which is just kind of bigger and grindy amp, just kind of, as it flattens out and drives. The power tubes tend to be a kind of more of a roar, and then the preamp distortion is that kind of thinner, sustainy preampy thing. I don't know how else to describe it. Slightly different sound. It's just a power tube. The sound of driving the power section of an amp. I don't know whether it's the tubes or the output transformer or the phase inverter or all the different things, but it just is a bigger, brawny kind of sound. What food do I miss the most after changing to a gluten-free diet? I've had celiac disease for 5 years now. Yeah, that's rough. I don't know if I'm celiac or not. My granddad was, but I never actually had a test done while I was still eating gluten, which you need to be in order for the celiac to show up. But yeah, my granddad was celiac, and I certainly respond poorly to eating gluten. The food I miss the most is, to tell you the truth, is just convenience, probably. I don't really miss eating bread and stuff like that much. Maybe croissants when you're in France. I kid. The whole time I've been in France since I was there 6 months of 2013 and 4 months in 2016, and I never ate a damn croissant the whole time. That's kind of a drag. Will the new PT amp have good post-phase inverter master volume or power scaling or both? I can't really talk too much about it yet, but it's alive. I've heard it. I'm actually going out to Tweaks this week, but I don't want to talk too much about the features yet. I'll leave some stuff to, gotta keep the mystery going. But it's coming. NAMM. It'll be out at NAMM. You'll see it then and know all about it. It's going to be super cool. Trust me that it sounds great, and that it's going to be. All the great things you've loved about the 100 tonally are all going to be intact. Maybe some even enhanced stuff in that sense. It's just got a whole, a whack of other things that are really cool about it. Have I used the Helix effects board? I have one 3 feet from me right now. Not even 2 feet at my feet. I love the Helix. Really been a great tool for me over the last few years. Okay, moving down. See here. 80s had too much reverb. Yeah, a lot of reverb in the 80s. That's true. Can you explain running 3 amps together and how to isolate and correct phase? There should be some switchers out there on the market that would allow you to connect up to 3 amplifiers. It's certainly something that can be built for you relatively easily if there isn't. I mean, there's like, a pedal board based switcher that you can run 3 amps. I don't know if there is one. The Lehle, is that how you say the name? Lehle. I think they make some. You're going to want one that's buffered. Because, of course, if you're running, you don't want to run a splitter that's got no buffer in it or whatever. Because if you're splitting up to 3 amps, you're losing signal when you're, either Y-ing or going out 3. So, and you're going to want a splitter that has phase switch and a isolation transformers on, at least the 2 outputs. So what that means is when you're running to multiple different amplifiers, you're getting multiple paths to ground, and you're going to get ground loop when you run 2 or more. So you're only going to want one to have the the ground, and then the other 2 you're going to want to isolate and lift that ground. So that's generally you can do via a switch. And then sometimes when you're running 3 amps, if you're running 2 at a time or 3 at a time, they can be out of phase with one another. One of them will be out of phase, or 2 of them will be out of phase with one of them. So anyway, you're going to want phase switch so that you can flip. The way that you check to know if they're out of phase is it's super obvious. If you just get in the middle of the 2 amplifiers, you need to have them set at the exact same volume and be playing through them at the same time. And if you put your head in the middle of the 2 cabinets and play a chord, it'll sound like the sound is hollow and disappearing when you're right in the middle of them if it's out of phase. And then if you flip the phase, all of a sudden you get all the power, and it sounds like there it is. Amazing to me how many times I hear stuff like that and people aren't recognizing that stuff is out of phase. Whole PAs sometimes. I mean, I hate it when I'm in a venue and I walk between the, it happens to me all the time, even on big tours and stuff like that, where I'll walk in the middle and I hear the kick drum disappear and get all like tiny. And it's like, dude, something in your PA is like totally out of phase. It's a drag to me, but anyway, with guitar rigs, it's relatively easy. Just run everything at the same time and get in the middle of. And if you're running 3, it gets complicated, But isolate any 2 of them and make sure they're all in phase with each other. If that makes sense. And then you're going to want to lift 2 of the amps and leave the other one just connected as normal. Lately, look at theirs, or there's the. What about the Frampton? There's the Peter Frampton. He had an amp switcher that went up to 3 amps, I think. I'm not sure if it's buffered and all that, but if you run a buffer in front of the switcher, you're cool, like another buffered unit. Good. If you need any help with this stuff, hit up Dave Friedman, racksystems@yahoo.com, and he will help you and direct you towards something that works for your particular setup. Have I tried the Boss MS3? Is that the little effect switcher thing with effects and 3 loops in it? I think I have tried it. I thought it was great. Great little working man's pedal switcher, for a small board. I don't have one, but I kind of wish I did. Be cool to build a little board with that thing on it. How was Canada, says Chris? It was awesome. Yeah, just did the 2 clinics up at Cosmo and at Lauzon. Am I saying that right? Lauzon in Ottawa. Lauzon. I think that's how you say it. Anyway, it was awesome, man. I mean, I was looking at the Facebook page for Cosmo, and it said, 23 people interested, 23 people going, and 32 interested or something. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm only going to have like 50 or 60 people at the clinic. But I thought that's cool. It'll be a smaller group. And I got there and there was 166 tickets sold, and then the walk up and stuff was over 170 people. So I guess I was looking at the wrong thing, but that was awesome. I mean, it was a terrific crowd, and really, really nice, beautiful venue they have there at Cosmo Music. It's like a full-on theater, really, and with big video screens and stuff. So I had my DAW up. You could see Logic on the screens and stuff while I was, at the clinic. So I basically track a song in the clinic. So it was really nice. It was cold up there. I got a weird like virus or something. My eye got infected, like a when you get really weird. All of a sudden, I couldn't put my contacts in. My eye was like all swollen and red. And it just went away on its own. It lasted like 2-3 days. Maybe it was mold in the hotel I was in or something. I digress. I don't know. Canada, you kicked my ass, but it was fun. Funny you should mention about Heart. They should hire you for their tour. I would love to go play with, either Nancy or Ann. A friend of mine, actually, Dan Rothschild, bass player that did the Melissa Etheridge tour during the first year that I was with her in 2011. Anyway, Dan Rothschild, he works with Nancy now. He's a great bass player. Let's see here. More. 80s had click tracks. Yeah, that's true. Kind of clicks came in the 80s. Not so much of that going on in the 70s. Although there probably was a little bit, but okay. Quadrophenia or Tommy? I'm gonna go Quadrophenia. I don't know. I just bonded with. I watched the movie more when I was a kid and stuff, and loved it. Ben Coombs says, "Shot 2 videos and then cut my hand. That's not good, dude. Take care of yourself." JJ says, "Have you played your new amp yet?" So I haven't actually played through it yet, but I'm going to play it this week. John's been playing and making me videos though. And it sounds great. It sounds exceptional. So I got to get out there this week and do some tweaking. He wanted a few days with it before I got there. And then he's like, now, once I get where I'm completely happy with things, he's really, really sensitive about things like noise, making sure that, that it's as quiet as it can be, that there's not any extraneous, no ground stuff going on like that. So, he dials all that stuff in, and gets it to where he thinks I'll dig it. And then I go out and start, the process of, if I think it's a little edgy, or the bright cap could be a little, bright switches and things like that, tuning those things in, changing values. And, but the core of the amp, he knows what I like at this point. We've done PT100 forever now. So the core, especially the distortion tone, changed a little bit on the clean side on this one, actually. It's probably going to be even better than anything we've ever done before. So anyway, it's going to be great. So yeah, I just found out I was going to go out there on Tuesday, but I can't go out there this Tuesday. I don't think so. Wednesday, I think it'll be. And that's cool. Hey, Pete, is the locking saddle trem from Wilkinson coming out anytime soon? As far as I know, I got to find that out this week too, what the official story is. We're kind of, transitioning to it now. But I don't know what the official timeline is. I think it's kind of over the next few months that we're, like basically if a guitar is made now, I'm pretty sure it's going to be made with that bridge on it. If one's been on order and they're producing it like this week, that's what'll go on it, I think. So, and they'll have a system. If you got any questions about it, if you have one, and you wanted to change to that bridge, just email Don at sir.com, DON at sir.com, and he'll have an answer for you. You covered 70s rock pretty well, but Stevie Wonder, Sly Stone, Ernie Isley, George Clinton was remarkable in that era. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I got to play on tour in 2016. I did the Michel Polnareff tour. And the bass player was Reggie McBride, who was Stevie Wonder's bass player from 69 or 70 all the way through 74. And then he did Rare Earth. And he's an incredible bass player. And the stories, were so amazing from that guy. And you can see old footage of him playing on TV with Stevie and stuff. It's so cool. Anyway, let's see here. What's my favorite go-to overdrive pedal? The Rocket Archer that I have on my board right now, as well as the Jan Ray, are the 2 overdrives I've got. And I love them both. I use the Jan Ray for more of a rhythm kind of drive, Stonesy kind of drive. And I use the almost like a clean overdrive that you could roll down the volume a bit and it would just be fattening the amp tone. And then I use the Archer for solo boost in front of the the PT channel 2 or 3. Have I done a clinic yet at Humbucker Music in Georgia? No, but I want to. I know they're a great dealer and haven't been there yet, so I want to make that happen. Big Sur dealer. Let's see. Somebody's up in the top chat. Mr. The Hoppo. What's up, dude? Thank you. Pete, can you talk about your Dan Electro guitar and how it vibes? Yeah. Maybe I should just show you guys. These are cool. Let me get them here. I have two. And I think I'm getting a baritone. I got my 12 string hanging up on the wall, actually, right now. So Dan Electro is a great company. They wanted me to make some pedal demo videos, and they offered to send me a couple guitars to check out. So they sent me this. This is the 12 semi-hollow. And I have never owned an electric 12 string. So this is a really handy guitar for me to have. It's got a nice big fat wide neck on it, which is great for a 12 because there's lots of space to get your fingers, you know, to fit on, you know, whatever chord voicings you're playing. And it sounds great with the lipstick tubes. It's jangly and clean and does what I want a 12 to do for sure. This guy has this, you know, older style Wilkinson trem on it. And this guitar sounds really good. I was trying to, recently I did a video. Can't remember what the video was that I used this in recently, but it was 2 or 3 demos ago. And I was trying to get a sound that I just couldn't get any other way. And I picked up this guitar and it sounded great. I think I used the middle position. To be honest, I'm not even sure what happens with the pickups on this guitar. It's got the dual lipstick tubes that I think operate as a humbucker here and then maybe split when you go here. Not 100% sure. And then you get this sort of P90 looking single in the neck. But it just sounds cool. It's got a cool funky sound to it. It needs the nut cut a little lower. You know, this is not an expensive guitar. This is an import guitar, and but I'm really picky about nut height on my guitars. So the nut is a little high, which makes the action feel a little high all over the neck. But for just tracking whatever I did with it in that video and stuff, it's great, you know. And they look cool, and you know, I've liked the Dan Electro since they came out in the 90s. When they reissued the original, you know, U56 or whatever they were called. I was like, well, that's cool. You know, they got a cool, funky vibe, and they're not expensive. And like I say, for the 12, so I'm getting a baritone from them, which is, I love the sound of baritone guitar. So I can't wait to get that. And, you know, just, I like writing with them and stuff, that big, fat, clean, you know, playing chords through them and kind of ambient stuff. I'm just totally into that. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, you can hear it in that video I did recently. Just the guitar actually sounds really cool. Like it just spoke really well in that particular video. That whatever the tone I was going for, that was it. It was perfect for that part. Adam says, learned so much from your channel. How is it working with Henley? I played with Don from late 2009 through 2015, I guess. So it's been a couple of years now that I haven't been working with him, but it was great. It was like 6 years of, you know, he's you know, he wants things the way he wants them, and there's no screwing around. But he was always professional and nice to me, and you know, he'd just walk in and sound check, say, "Hey Pete, how's it going?" You know, and that was it. You pretty much start calling tunes and you start playing, and you might talk a little bit, but not, you know, I didn't get to know him all that well or anything like that. But he was always cool. You know, there was never anything. Well, okay, I remember. I'll tell you one story about my first gig with him. We were all dressed in suits on the first tour because he likes to do that sometimes. So, well, there's somebody up in the top chat, so I'm going to get to them first, just for a second here, and then I'll tell you the story. Pete, can you talk about future clinics in the Southeast, in particular the 2 great Sur dealers, Sound Pure and Wildwood Guitars, or Midwood Guitar Studio? Please hit them up and if anybody's in the Southeast or anywhere in the country or anywhere in the world for that matter, and there's a Sur dealer and you want me to come do my clinic there, please let them know. Just tell the manager of the store or whatever, hey, Pete Thorn does this Sur clinic. You know, he's done it at about 7 or 8 different Sur dealers now. People seem to dig it, because they need to hear that from the customers that you know, it's you know, they got to put on the clinic and it costs them some money. So let them know. But I anticipate more happening because the response so far has been just great. So I'll be talking definitely with and stuff to try and make it happen. Rep the Strap on the East Coast. When I left, it was like, we got more of that next year. And I said, great, just can you talk to Humbucker and all those other people you deal with? So he probably deals with the stores that you're talking about, Matt. You know what happens, but we had a great time doing them. So I hope more happens. Yeah, it'll help too if you as a customer, if you go in the store and you let them know, I'd appreciate it because I'd love to come out there and do it. Anyway, so it was Henley. What was I was going to tell you the story of the first gig. So yeah, very first gig, we were dressed in suits on this tour. It was a fall tour, and he was kind of doing a fall theme, and we were all in dark clothes and I don't know, suits. So anyways, I had dress shoes, and I'd never actually done the set with those shoes on, and I put on these shoes, and they were a little bit wider than what I'm used to, and I was trying to hit my pedals on my pedal board, and the first tune or two was a nightmare. And I was like, oh my God, and they were kind of slippery on the stage. So I told my tech, go get my Converse from the dressing room, So he ran back, and there was one song where I didn't have to play for the first half of the tune or something. So I went off the side of the stage, changed it into my Converse, and they were gray. So I had on a suit with gray Converse all of a sudden. And I remember playing the show and getting through it, we got off stage. I was thrilled because it was my first show with Henley, and I got through it, and I was like, whew, it was because it's like, can I hang? Can I, I wanted to do a great job. And we got in the elevator, and the whole band was like, let's hear it for Pete. That was awesome, dude. It was great. And Henley goes, good job. Now let's talk about those shoes. He was pissed. Not really. I said, I'm sorry, man. I explained, I said I couldn't. I said my dress shoes just were not working. So it was an emergency. And he goes, no problem. We'll get you something for the next gig. So whatever. I think I ended up in black Converse for the rest of the tour. Let's see. Somebody says, hey, Pete, I have a request. Play some Hanoi Rocks. Hanoi Rocks, they were cool, man. My sister was a big Hanoi Rocks fan. Really big fan. So I heard them a lot growing up around the house. Cindy says, how about a video on setting up a pedal board for live or stage use, switching between rhythm, grind, solo tones? I guess, there's videos on my pedal board, and you can see those. I mean, there is, videos, kind of multiple videos I've done about my pedal board builds, and you can see some of the sounds that I go for. If you search for Pete Thorn pedal board on YouTube, there's going to be 3 incarnations of my boards that come up, and you can see those, and kind of, I do walk through a bunch of the different sounds and stuff in those videos. So I've kind of done it before. Let's see. I rented a Daniel Electro Baritone once, says Mike Jones. It sounded awesome. Made the 7-string sound like an imitation low note guitar. Yeah, I mean the long scale baritone kind of twangy thing. That's more in my wheelhouse than a 7-string. I'm not really into the 7-string thing. Yeah. More down with the baritone. Let's see. Moving down in the chat. Josh says he's been looking for a non-recessed Floyd Strat, but have had no luck. What do I think of adding a Godot Floyd to a Strat? Yeah, I mean, you can do that. You can have a tech do it. That's what we all used to do. Just retrofit a Floyd to, know that it's going to change the sound. And you might want to look at this Wilkinson bridge, hit up the Wilkinson folks and see if you can possibly get on a list or something for one of the new bridges that I've got on my guitars, because it basically gives you all that tuning stability, and it'll retrofit right to a 2-post. If your Strat has 2-post bridge, it's an easy retrofit, and it'll keep the tone. It's the only thing about Floyds, they do sound a little different. I put a Floyd on my Sir Classic, and it changed the tone a little bit. It's a different sound. But yeah, you can do that. That's what everybody did. I mean, everybody just used to put the the Floyds on. So let's see. Short scale for me, my Gibsons, but also like my Fender Strat. That's from Alvin. Yeah, I mean the 24 3/4 or 25.5 scale thing is a very real thing. Changes the sound. Big part of the way a Gibson sounds is the shorter scale, and a big part of the way a Fender sounds is the longer scale. I agree with that. Do a clinic in Boston, says Surf by. Has a great guitar teacher. His name is Tony, who would like to hear you here. He teaches at Berkeley. Can I go take lessons from him? I'm sure. I'd love to take lessons from like Tomo and all those Berkeley guys. Learn some new stuff. Let's see. Pete Laces says, if I had to grab one delay for everything, what would it be? I've had more boutique things, but keep coming back to the DL4. Yeah, I mean, I'm using a DD500, which is the standard Boss. It works great, you know. DD500 gets the job done on my board for me right now. And, you know, certainly DL4, Line 6, I love the tone of the Line 6 delays, actually. Like the stuff in the Helix. And I could be happy with the HX Stomp, for that matter, get my delays out of that. Adam is in the top chat, and he just wanted to show his appreciation. Adam, hey, thank you. I appreciate you being here, and you're too kind. Thanks, sir. Very nice of you. We got about 400 people online. That's awesome. It is generally around noon. I find more people. Maybe I should start doing this thing at noon instead of 11, because it seems like we kind of peak around noon. There's more folks up. A video on guitar setup would be sweet, says James. Yeah, I could do that, I guess. I'm not a real expert at it, but you know, one of the main things I'm real picky about is truss rod, and I think you guys have probably seen how I do that, but I'll show you in a second here. Vibro Steve says, "Hey man, putting Thornbuckers on a PRS SE." He's up in the top chat. Thank you, Vibro Steve. He says, "Should I get the Plus model?" So in a PRS SE, it's not really necessary to get the Plus. So the deal with the Plus versus the regular Thornbucker is that I sort of felt like in a Strat style guitar, like a Strat's 25.5 scale, maybe with an alder body or ash body or something, I like the little bit of extra output and push that the pickup gives you. In a Les Paul or a Gibson shorter scale guitar, it's almost like the guitar sounds hotter to me. So in other words, the mahogany and the shorter scale and the glue-in neck and all that gives you a little more sustain than a bolt-in design would, and a little bit more, they're a little more inherently MIDI. So I find that you can get away with a kind of a slightly lower output pickup, if that makes sense, because the guitar kind of gives you that thing. In a Strat style guitar that's maybe a little bit more neutral, not with the mids push as much, maybe even a little scooped in the case of a Swamp Ash guitar with a maple neck, I find the extra push of the Thornbucker Plus is nice. So if it's a pretty subtle difference between the two, but there's a noticeable difference, and it's just a little bit more mids and a little bit more sustain, a little bit more drive with the Thornbucker Plus, and it really is just the difference between an 8.4K pickup and an 8.7K pickup, which ain't a lot. So little bit of extra push. So it's up to you. Ask yourself, do you live mainly in like rock and roll solo tone? If so, then maybe get the Plus. If cleans are really important to you and you like, kind of more scoopy Jimmy Page, maybe then the regular pickup, the regular Thornbucker, it's the way to go, especially in that guitar, because that guitar is a little bit more of a glue and neck, for lack of a better term, less polished design, right? I was going to show you the way I do truss rod stuff. So the way I do truss rods setup stuff is I'll use many times the E strings and then definitely like the G string, and I hold like the 22nd fret with my thumb, and then I hold the first fret of the guitar down with this finger. So now the string is acting like a straight edge pinched between the 22nd or the first fret and the last fret, depending on how many frets you have on your guitar. And then you can just push down like this on the string and see how much relief there is, and see because if the neck is curved a little bit like this, you're going to be able to push the string down a little bit. And that's what you want, just the smallest amount of relief. And I do mean small, small, small. For me, different people are going to like different things, but for me, I know exactly where I like it. If that string is lying flat on the fret when you're doing this, that means your neck is bowed backwards. The neck's going like this a little bit, and the highest point on the neck is kind of going to be around in the middle somewhere, and that means you're going to get buzzing down here. The action's going to feel real low all the way through here, but you're probably going to be fretting out, and it's not going to sound that great. So you want it to be just a little bit of relief when you're pushing down like that, holding the string down between the last frets and the first fret. And that's how I check. That's one little tip I think I've told that many times on here, so sorry if that was boring for anybody. Yeah. Let's see, JMP2204 says he owns a PV Bravo 112 killer amp, all tube, sleeper of an amp. I don't remember the Bravo 112. Was that an amp that was made in the 70s or something? I remember most of the PVs, PV amps. Alvin says, did you get into the old band Triumph? I like Triumph. I liked Rick Emmett a lot. I mean, growing up in Canada, used to hear them a lot. He's a cool guitar player and did some cool tunes. I was more of a Rush fan, but Triumph was cool. Moving down. How do I remember all the solos on Pete Thorn 2? Did you document them? That's Brian. If I was going to play all those solos, I would have to go through and shed a lot. And I better start doing that, actually, because I do want to play some gigs eventually. So, but I can't profess to be able to play all that stuff to you right now. Many times when I'm tracking, I'm writing a part, and I'm just doing it on the spot. Going, that sounds cool. And then I lay it down, and then I move on, and then I get away from it. It'd be like I have to go back and learn it. So like when I've done gigs before, like played some of the live stuff. There's some videos of me playing some of the songs from Guitar Nerd out there, on the net and stuff, like at the Sir Party and gigs like that and stuff. I've had to work hard, sit there and go over my own tunes and shed. So, but it's just a matter, I have all the sessions and stuff. So if I was sitting down, I'm like, how did I play that again? I can go through and listen to the masters and even like spit out, like export just the solo. And then I can load it into transcribe and slow it down and learn my own solo. That I probably have to do that on different stuff, And it's also, I tend to layer guitars a lot. So then it's like, okay, well, which ones am I going to play live? So then you got to come up with some amalgamation of all the parts, some, yeah, you get what I'm saying. The 7th string is just a spare, says Ben, right? Pete's brain is a library. That's how he remembers. My brain is a sieve. Like, definitely, It's like when you're straining spaghetti. I have to go back and review things. The knowledge only stays in there so long before it all leaks out again. Just got your signature, sir, says Daryl. Thank you, sir, for getting that. Thank you, sir, for getting a sir. Outstanding in every way. Thanks, man. Looking forward to the new amp. Thank you. I've ever been playing live and had to go to the restroom. How did you deal with it? I had one experience on the Milan Farmer tour in 2013. And that is kind of an intricate, it was because of the outfits we had to wear, which involved suspenders. And I was wired in with my in-ears and everything. And I think the easiest thing to get off if you got to go to the bathroom. And without going into detail, there was a break in the middle of the set where it was like 3 songs where I didn't have to play. And yeah, I barely made it. Something I'd eaten. It was a problem, but I made it. I don't know. I had to mind over matter it for the first 5 songs of the set. And then I got a break. I was pretty fine walking out. And then like by song 2 or 3, it was like, oh no. And then by song 4, you're just kind of meditating. And then song 5, I just trying to get to the end and then trying to run off the stage, hand my tech the guitar while he's looking at me confused while I run away. And I made it back and did the rest of the show, and it was okay. That was the worst I can remember. I can also remember needing to do kind of the same thing one day before a gig. I think it was in 2000 or so. I was on tour with this band. We were playing at, I think it was the what's it called? The Electric Factory in Philadelphia. Anybody know that club? I think that's what it's called. That was my memory of it. And there was a bathroom to the side of the stage. And I was like, I'm sorry. And ran in the bathroom right before we're going on. People are hammering on the door. Come on, dude. We got to go on. And I'm like, it's just not going to happen for another couple minutes. Sorry. Apologies. Yeah. All right. That's enough of that. What can I say about Fishman Pickups? Are you talking about the... that's from Mother Hills. Are you talking about the Fluence Pickups? I've heard nothing but good things from folks like Steve Stevens and Friedman. I haven't personally tried them yet, so I can't personally vouch for them, but I've heard good things. I've heard people almost like surprised, like, oh, it's this new design. I was kind of like ready to be like, yeah, whatever, because I've heard that before. And then they try them and they go like, whoa, these actually sound really amazing. I don't really know how they work. I know they're a very different design, but I haven't tried them. If you're talking about Fishman acoustic pickups, generally solid and good, you know. My favorite acoustic pickups I've ever tried are like bags systems, generally LR bags. I think are really great. Yeah. Sorry, just one sec here. Playing a little bit of cleanup in the chat. Well, somebody's up in the top chat. Jeff Martin. Thank you, sir. He says, showing you some love and support and digging your new CD. Thanks, Jeff Martin. Appreciate that. Too kind. Okay. Fabricio's from Brazil. Hi, Fabricio. He says, which pickups do I recommend for a hum single configuration guitar? I have a couple different ones. I mean, the main one I have is, I guess, the white Sir Classic I have, as well as the Sunburst one. And they both have V60 LP Sir pickups and Thornbucker Plus in the bridge. So I like that combo a lot. V60 LPs and Thornbucker Plus balance beautifully. I also have what was called the Mike Landau Classic pickup in my old Strat in the neck, and it sounds great. A slightly different sound than the V60 LP. I don't know quite how to qualify it. I think it's a little hotter, maybe a little, but that works well too. But yeah, V60 LPs and a Thornbucker Plus in the bridge is kind of my go-to combo on a couple guitars that are hum single, and I love that combo. Yeah. Julio says, show us the flames on the Les Paul. What a beautiful guitar. It's not super flamey, but it does that kind of 3D thing where it changes. Woo! You know who picked this top? John Sir actually picked the top on this. I got to pick from a few, and he said, that's the one. Go with that one. And it is cool. It's not too flamey, and it's just kind of right, you know. It's cool. Looks like an old one. Yeah. So, let's see here. Steve says, Universal Audio, magnetic tape machines to add some warmth to tracks, channel strip or buses. I guess you're saying, how would I do it? So using a plug-in, tape-style plug-in. Sometimes the easiest thing is just to use them on the buses. So like drum bus, and put like a 2-track. Use the, sometimes I use the Stephen Slate one a lot, the virtual tape machine VTM, Slate VTM. I like the Studer too, and it's a little more easy to screw things up with the UA ones because there's more controls. You can get a little more radical. So either Oxide or the Studer 800, and it definitely adds something, does some cool stuff. I guess I tend to use them more in buses than I do on individual tracks. I haven't got, like, even on my records and stuff, I didn't get too into putting one of those tape machines on every single track, but maybe on the guitar bus and on the drum bus. Then on the master bus, I actually use the Slate virtual tape machine Ampex 2-track, thing quite a bit. And it does a really beautiful thing in the 15 IPS slower tape speed where the bottom just kind of drops and sounds really great. You'll hear it right away if you try it. It's a really nice sounding plug-in. It's hard to screw up. Just don't drive it too hard. And it'll sound good. And try the 2 different tape types, the FG9 or whatever, and the 456. I think you can try the different ones. 456 sounds a little more full through the mids to me, and the other one sounds a little more like modern rock or something. But they're nice. They're nice for adding it just does a little glue compression thing. That's pretty cool. To your mixes. Yeah. Let's see here. Somebody's trying to get in touch with me. Who is it? Edgar. Just give me 1 second here. My contractor for my studio is trying to get in touch. Oh, he sent me a weird text. Call you in 30. Thanks for that. I love Greenbacks, says Joe. I do too. Neo Greenbacks. That's a great way to go too. I believe you use Greenbacks, says Pete Lasis, in your Sir 212 cabs. That's true. I use the H magnet Greenback. I have a 74 Marshall cab with black backs and am looking for another flavor. And I have two CAA 112s. Would you do Greenbacks V30s or something else? Yeah, in the CAA cabs, like the 75 watt Greenback is probably a good way to go. It's going to be a little more full scoop, full range rather than the, the. You're saying you've got blackbacks. I wonder if they're H30s or M's. The M's always got the push mids thing, and the H has a little more crispy top, a little more full bottom, less forward mids. That's what you hear in the Greenback H, but I'm not a fan of the Celestion Anniversary G12H. Just it's kind of edgy and they just don't sound that great to me. The Greenback H has a nice balanced sound that worked really well for me in the PT cabs for the last few years that we've used them. I really like them, so I think that's a good way to go. Let's see here. Ian says, yes, I know the Electric Factory. Yeah, Electric Factory in Philly. Actually, I had to spend the night in the parking lot there once on a bus, which sucked because it's like if you had to go to the bathroom really bad, what would you do? I guess you'd have to use the bus, which is not cool. Everybody out there knows that, right? Don't poop on the bus. Unacceptable. Get you kicked out of the band. But anyway, yeah, after I did it was a Chris Cornell show. And for whatever reason, the tour manager at the time hadn't set up an arrangement so that we were going to, drive from after the gig to the next city. It was like, no, we're staying the night here. I'm like, what do you mean? Here in the Electric Factory parking lot where there's nothing around? It's not the greatest neighborhood. And what happens if we... And he's like, they didn't really think it through. We survived. Lauzon is how you pronounce Lauzon. Thank you. Lauzon. Okay, that's the store in Ottawa where I did a clinic. Thank you, Puppy G. When I'm going through the process of how the bands you play in rehearse, like the gig in Japan, what actually happens in rehearsals, how many days, what kind of details? That's a good question. No two are the same, but there is similarities. Generally speaking, for any big tour you do, I've done at least a few weeks of rehearsal. They tend to send you sometimes charts. More often than not, it's just audio files, and you'll get a list of maybe 30 to 40 songs, maybe more, maybe less, but a list in the beginning. These days, MDs, musical directors, tend to give you like a Dropbox link so you can download all the material. If there's charts, if there's MP3s, that kind of thing. You're expected to learn everything at home first. And then like in Japan, I'll get over there and get into rehearsal. Probably take a day of setting stuff up. Just getting set up, getting intermixes going, getting monitor mixes going, making sure everything sounds cool. Maybe run through a few tunes because now we've played as a band for a number of years, so we can hit a bunch of the tunes. If just a sound check. It's like, okay, let's play this one, and then we'll play through it. Everybody will ask for tweaks in their monitors, and then you start rehearsing. And with Japan, like I say, this is where it gets to be no two gigs are the same. Some artists, let's say somebody like Don, generally wants things to be really like the record. So if it's classic tunes like Sunset Grill or something like that, you're playing exactly like the album, maybe with an ending or something like that that's different. Then it's where that would differ is if he wants to do cover tunes, which he does sometimes. He wants to play, he does some really, really cool covers. So then it would be working those up. So nailing the album tunes, getting it sounding great, and then working up the cover tunes. Maybe trying some different arrangements and things like that of those. With somebody like Kiyoshi, who I play with in Japan, it's much more, he wants to reinvent himself a lot. So it's like you're trying different versions of things, maybe slower, maybe faster versions of songs, with, endings, intros, segues from one song to another. He might want to change that stuff up from tour to tour. So what you did on the last tour might not be the same way you're going to play it on the next tour. So generally he's got at least 3 weeks. Even one-offs I've gone to do over there, there's 2 weeks of rehearsal for one show, or two shows, maybe. A couple weeks of rehearsal, 9 days, 10 days, maybe with a day off or two, something like that in the middle. It's a lot of work. We do a lot of rehearsing. Tyoshi has a guy that's his main musical director, because there's more than one, but he has a guy that kind of stands in for him, who's an awesome dude, by the way, named Seiki, that I love to death. But he is Tiyoshi's link to the band, because Tyoshi usually doesn't come in for the first week or so, or maybe 3 or 4 days at least. And so Seiki, his MD, is in there, and Tiyoshi's telling him what he wants, and then Seiki's conveying that to the band, saying, you know, okay, on this tune, we're going to try this. And Seiki will come up with, if Tiyoshi's like, I don't know, come up with a cool ending, Seiki will come up with a way, a cool ending. He'll teach it to us. And then, so that we'll rehearse like that for a few days. And then he finally comes in, the boss comes in, and he'll listen to some of those ideas. And sometimes he throws a bunch of it out the window. No, that's not what I want, and then we start over and come up with a different ending. And sometimes that is a process of, maybe it's me like saying, well, what if we went like this, it's like that. So it's a lot of, and then you might, do that song that you worked on the ending or the intro for a week or a week and a half or two. You're in 2 weeks in rehearsal, and all of a sudden it disappears off the set list. You're like, whatever happened to that? We're not going to, oh no, he doesn't decide he doesn't want to do it. And he's added more, because he tends to do that. So he'll, the morning before rehearsal, you might get 3 songs, 2 weeks into rehearsal, you might get 3 songs in your email inbox. Learn these before you come. And it's like, oh shit. I thought I was going to go out for lunch before rehearsal, but I guess not, So then you'll sit and try and frantically learn these few tunes, but it's always cool. They're always, you work really, really, really hard. Sometimes it's 8-hour days, 10-hour days, rehearsal days, like that's just how they roll in Japan. They work hard, with, dinner break, that kind of thing. But I love it. I love the process. You're in there playing guitar, playing music. You can't complain, and everybody's working hard, and they're all awesome. So it's kind of like that. It's hard work, but I love it too. Even just talking about it right now, I'm like, man, I want to go back. Like, that's when I'm at my best, is when I'm in there and I have a job to do, and I'm looking at my pedal board and my tones, and I've learned the tunes, and I'm like, I know how to do this. That's when I'm really in my element. And then after that, you get out and you do maybe 2-3 production rehearsals, maybe at the first venue where you're going to do the first show, which means that, they're working on the cameras for the video screens and the lighting and all that, and checking everything out, making sure everything's cool. You're running the set, working on, musical ideas still, but it's more about the way the whole show is coming off. And that's called production rehearsals. And you do that generally for a few days, and then it'll be the first gig. And then pretty much once we get through a show or two, he might want to change a few things as the tour is going on for the next couple of months or whatever it is. But we're kind of set by then, and he doesn't really deviate all that much. If something's not working, he'll change it and come in, and we'll do, long sound checks and figure things out. But my experience with him is more often than not, then the show's kind of set. So you really work hard in the first 3 weeks, and then after that, show days you work hard, and then there's a lot of time off. Sometimes we only play 2 shows a week, and I'll have 5 days off and just be in Tokyo, just chilling or whatever. Traveling by bullet train to the different cities and stuff like that. Favorite go-to humbucker for a Les Paul? Well, Thornbucker these days. The pickups that Gil built for my the Les Paul that I just showed you, the one that he built, are fantastic. So I love those as well. But something PAF-ish always for Les Paul. Have you ever used a Z-Vex? What's it called? Nano head? No, never tried one. What is that? What is it? Reamping it with a Fryat power station. Oh, I see. It must be a little tiny amplifier, eh? And then you're reamping it with the tube amp, and that sounds like a neat rig. Okay, let's see here. I use my Stone Age Custom 212 with 65 watt Greenbacks with the Mini Jubilee. Sounds killer. That's from JMP 2204. I've heard good things about those Stone Age cabinets. 65 watt Greenbacks. Yeah, I mean, the 65 watt Greenback is a real full mid. It's like fuller than a Greenback to me through the mids. But, that can be your thing, I like the 75s a little better and a 212 for me, which normally I'm a Greenback guy all the way. But the 65s I found just have a little bit too much mids for me. But depending on your guitar and what you're doing stuff, of course, it's all relative. It all can be perfect. Lost my place in the chat here because it jumped around a little bit, but it's about 12:23. I got to go pretty soon, you guys. I got to hit up. I'm working on my studio, and my contractor guy's calling me right now, and I better call him back and figure out what he needs to do, because tomorrow we're painting, so we got to do air conditioning, duct, and stuff before then. So I'm going to split in a couple minutes here. let's see. Yeah, Fabricio's asking about Michael Landau pickups in the middle and the bridge of talking about the single coils for HSS Strat. What do I think about V60? I like the V60 LPs. They're my favorite. So, but I also like the Landau Classic, which has now been renamed the V63 or something, I think, by Sir, because Mike's now mostly making Fender stuff. But they still make that pickup. So yeah, check that out. Look on the Sir site, maybe look at the difference. I think you'd be fine with either. They both sound great. Both those the Landau Classic's the one that's in the neck of my my old Strat now, which everybody always says, man, that guitar sounds good. So 2 Landau Classics probably couldn't go wrong, and a Thornbucker Plus in the bridge. Let's see here. Ricardo says, Pete, what would you suggest to play around with tape machine for cheap? Stomp box? Sorry, dude, I don't understand. You're asking me about recording onto a tape machine or getting a tape machine sound. I'm just not sure about your question, but get me back and I'll see if I can answer it. Just clarify a little bit. Have I checked out the Bad Cat 40R USA Player Series 40-watt guitar amp head with reverb? I have not. I have not played that particular Bad Cat. Harry Potter says, what's up, Harry Potter? Magician. Just received my Sir Classic Antique Limited, and it's candy apple red. That sounds nice. Do you think I made a good choice? Yeah, that sounds like a cool guitar. I love candy apple red Strats. I've never owned one, but I love the look. I want one. Actually, I'm getting something that's kind of like that, a candy apple red with kind of, I had John digitize the neck from my old 80s Jackson, which is basically a mid-80s Charvel style neck. And so he did it, and I'm getting a Sir built with that neck. And now he's got a digitized version of that neck. So who knows? Maybe they'll put out more with that particular, that old Charvel thing. How many hours a day do I play when I'm not touring? It's generally all about what I'm doing for work. I don't actually have a hell of a lot of time, just play for fun because there's always work to do. So, but it is fun. I'm sitting down doing a pedal demo. So like today I'll do once I get back here after I deal with the contractor stuff, the Ethos TWE1 is going to be the next video, I think. So I'm going to make a video for that. And that'll just be me sitting here playing guitar and writing something. So, might play for a few hours. Great stories here, says Ben. Thumbs up. Thanks, man. George Lynch KXM project rocks. Yeah, from what I've heard, it's great. I know Ray pretty well and Doug as well, and it's a cool thing. They wrote some cool tunes. I agree. Let's see. L. Scott says, got a story about a time when you were clueless on a tour about a phrase or term or someone's title that everyone else knew. Not so much, but I've had to tell people sometimes, like, hey, like, I don't read charts that well, and a couple times, like, and these guys are good friends of mine now. MD I did a tour with a couple of years ago and stuff. One day I kind of told him, like, because he's like, well, just read it on the chart. And I'm like, because he was changing something. I'm like, actually, I'm sorry, I just don't get, can you just show me? Because just play it once and I'll have it. And he was like, oh, like I had to kind of actually send him an email later, I think. It just kind of politely explained, like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm sort of a little bit more of a street rock player than everybody else in there was pretty good readers. And I wasn't getting something on a chart, and I just had to explain. And he was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't, it wasn't like it was a problem, I felt a little dumb in the moment, but yeah, I'm not the guy. It's a double-edged sword, the reading thing, because, I find the guys that read charts really well, and this ties in a little bit to the last question, like, what are you doing during rehearsals and stuff like that? What's the process like? If there's people that are real good readers, they tend to read. And I find they're on the charts for a long time. So if it's kind of a rock gig even, you see them 3 weeks in and they're still reading. And it's like, we've played the song already, like, a lot of times. And that's great. I mean, I'd love to have that skill to be able to read, but I love the fact that I don't have to. If it's kind of rock based, I want to perform, right? So, if you're sitting there and you're in the back of the stage and you're not a big part of the show, and if it's like, it doesn't really matter, then I guess it's okay. But most of the tours I do, I'm the guitar player and I'm kind of more out front, and I'm supposed to be performing. So I don't want to be, there's just something, what I'm getting at is there's something that happens with charts where, when you're reading, you're not internalizing it. Maybe to some degree, but I generally find that most musicians that read really well, they read and they're still reading 2 weeks later, you know, and then it takes them a minute to get off the charts to, you know, they want to put the chart away, but just by reading it, I don't feel like they're memorizing it. It's kind of going, it's like when you're reading a book, you're reading, but you know, you read a whole bunch of pages of that book and you don't remember exactly what was said 3 pages ago. You're not memorizing it. You're reading it and it's coming in, you're processing it. If you had to say it all again, you didn't memorize it, you read it. So there's that thing that happens. And so when I feel like maybe it's just me being lazy, but I feel like the work, I'm not being lazy, because the work that I put in for the 2 or 3 weeks leading up to going into rehearsals for a tour, I sit there and go over and over and over and over things, and I internalize it and memorize it so that I don't have to read, because I kind of can't. I'm not that great of a reader. So I memorize this stuff, and I go in day one of rehearsal. Maybe I've got some cheat sheets or something like that, but generally I know what I'm doing when I walk in there. And I find on a rock gig that to me is preferable anyway. I want to be able to perform and be, you know, I don't want to be tied to a music stand and be reading or an iPad or whatever. It allows me to yeah. Anyway, you get it. Mr. K says, "Can you sign my guitar?" I'd be happy to if we meet someday. Mike says, "Hey Pete, are you going to be part of the Chris Cornell tribute? I Am the Highway at LA Forum, the 16th of January, Metallica, Foo Fighters." I have no idea. I kind of doubt it. You know, I was talking to the other guys in the solo band, like Corey, and you know, I think they want Metallica and the Foo Fighters and stuff. That's kind of what they're doing with that thing, you know, unless they ask, you know. But you know, it seems to me it's kind of about the biggest names, you know, in rock or something. You know, that's what they're doing. I'm not one of the biggest names in rock, so I certainly will attend, but I doubt, you know, I don't think we're the draw that they're looking for something like that, which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, I would be honored, of course, to do it, but you know, I think they're looking for those absolutely humongoid rock bands to play. Great clinic at Cosmo this week. Thank you very much. And great meeting you. Just bought a Vox 212 cab to go with the your AC30 head. So looking forward to the next Amps in the Zone. Yeah, I'm going to, so as soon as I can get the studio done, I want to do another one of those Amps in the Zone videos and an AC30. And there's another fella at the space where I am that has a great AC30 that actually used to belong to Dave Friedman. It's a super cool one with a blue panel on it. So I've never seen anything quite like it, but it's an old 60s one that's kind of custom. And Dave said, I haven't tried it yet, but Dave says it sounds amazing. So I'm going to use that, I think. And my AC15 hand wired. And then I've got that divided by 13 right there, which is a AC30 essentially. So I have like modern boutique AC30, modern, you know, made by Vox AC15, which is basically an AC30 front end anyway, and then an old one. And we can kind of crank them all up and compare them all, get them all sounding as good as possible, have some fun, make a cool video. Pete says, just checks my 78 Blackbacks. That's Pete Lasis. He says they're G12M at 75 hertz. That's awesome. I have a set of those too, by the way. I used them on the new record, for example, on Kyushu Blues. That's 78 Blackback, G12M, 75 hertz, same speakers you've got. So do the M's have more highs and the H have more mids? No, the other way around. H has more lows, and the bigger magnet on an H gives it like a fuller, sort of more defined on the top and fuller lows without quite the same creamy mids. It's the Hendrix speaker, really. The H magnet is the bigger sound. The M magnet's a little more the mid woody thing. I prefer the M's for distortion sounds, but if you were playing clean chimey stuff with the Strat, the H, that's why the Hendrix thing, I think. So it just depends on what you're doing, although they both sound great for a bunch of different stuff. So that's kind of how that works. But yeah, I'm sure your cab sounds great with those Blackbacks. That's one of my favorite speakers of all time. By the way, the Blackbacks, for whatever reason, are a little brighter. They've got a little more grind on the top end, and that is just kind of across the board. The Blackbacks are known for being a little bit more. Some people like the, you know, the early pre-rollers are a little warmer sounding, and then the Blackbacks have they're a little more aggressive on the top. But I think it's cool they're a little cool for hard rock and stuff. What What do I think of Strandberg's, the neck? Does it really make things easier on Strandberg's, those headless guitars with the, I think it's super weird, but I guess you're supposed to sit there and play it for a week and then you get used to it. I don't really understand what I'm supposed to do, but I feel like I'm missing something. Like maybe I'm putting my thumb the wrong way. Maybe I would get used to it. You know, people seem to really like it. That girl, Yvette Young, that plays it, she says she really likes them, and she just had to kind of get used to it. I was talking to her about it on Instagram once. They look cool. You know, I don't know. It's a different thing than, I like guitars with headstocks mainly because I feel like it's a big part of the tone. But yeah, this is interesting. Oh, this guy, yeah, Johan. I don't know how you say his last name. Segboris YouTube channel. That's how you say it. If you want to check out a great site for a comparison of vintage speakers, amps, and pickups, he's big into the old Marshalls and stuff. And he makes, this guy Johan, he makes cool videos with you know, all different eras of plexis and different speakers and stuff. It is useful, that site for sure. I have the aux. My friend James Santiago designed it. I know James. He's a great guy. Really is good if you're going to use it to its fullest extent. Great cab speakers, mics in there. I agree. Got one right there. Love the aux. Where is it? There it is. With 2 reactive loads. Load boxes. Got to do it. Guys, I should run. Gotta go because I gotta go deal with the studio this week. But you'll see me here next week. Probably one of the last ones I'll do in this room because I'm moving. So pretty soon I'll be out of here and I'll be in a different zone. And I'll have the new studio too. I kind of can't wait to do the live stream stuff from my new studio because I'll have some more options then for plugging in, maybe just playing through amps or whatever, you know, and it looks great in there and stuff. It's all coming together. So it should be all painted and pretty much ready to go probably by middle of the week. And I just bought a desk today, bought that Argosy desk, set that up, get an amp switcher going, start moving things in. And try and keep it very neat, organized, and not so chaotic. I always get bogged down with this gear everywhere. And so I'm just going to move in what I absolutely need and make it neat and organized and try and make the most efficient sort of studio space I can. So I'm looking forward to that. It not being too crazy. All right, y'all. I got a split, so I'm sorry if I missed your question, but I'll take one more here. Somebody's asking, Eric is saying, I've seen you using Musicom Lab switchers. How have those worked out for you? Because you're looking at getting a switcher. I love them. You're also talking about the Boss switcher. That seems great too. I haven't personally built a board with the ES5, but I know a lot about it, and it looks terrific. Dave Friedman really likes it. I know that. And of course, the nice thing about the Boss is it's readily available. So if you had a problem, which I have heard of one problem with them, to be honest, the other guitar player in the Japanese band I play in, Ichiro, his quit at one point, and you had to get a whole new one by the next day because quit on a gig. So that was an issue. But generally, that's not our experience with Boss products. They generally work great, right? So I guess it can happen to anything. The nice thing was that it was readily available. He was able to get one by the next day, and it was up and running again. So, yeah, so the ESA would be a good way to go. But I've had nothing but good experiences with the Musicom Lab switchers. It's a little funny to program. You know, anytime you're trying to, I was telling somebody this week, when it comes to pedal rigs and switchers and stuff like that, the classic, you know, he's like, I'm used to pedal boards where I can instantly access anything. Well, the classic way to do that and still have some presets and switching is the Bradshaw system. Because with Bradshaw, all your pedals were in a rack. And then you had this big old foot controller that you've probably seen pictures of Bradshaw rigs. And the reason they're so big with so many switches is because everything had an instant access switch. So you'd make your presets, and then inside the preset, you've got a switch for every single effect, amp, and whatever you want to do, you could just hit a switch and then push store, and that goes into your preset. So it's so easy because it was all right there in front of you. It looked like a lot, but the reality was it's easy because you could get to anything instantly. Well, when you're trying to make a switcher that's now this big or something, you obviously can't do that. And you're putting all the pedals on the board and stuff, you know, so you're going to be paging through a couple of menus for your instant access switches and stuff like that. So those are things to consider with switchers. You know, how many switches do you need to turn on and off your pedals? Are you cool with, you know, mainly doing presets And then maybe, you've got 3 or 4 pedals on within that preset. And in order to get to those 3 or 4 instant access things, you're going to have to make sense. So I hope so. So that's the case with the Musicom Lab is, you're paging through a couple of menus and stuff, and the ES8, because they're long and they're narrow and they're small, meant to fit on a compact pedal board. So you can't have it all. You're going to sacrifice, compact for instant access with the Bradshaw style things, or now we've all veered towards using kind of the smaller units, I guess, and it's not quite as convenient in some ways. Anyway, okay, you guys, have a great week, and I will be back here next Sunday for more of the same. Thanks for joining me, as always. Over and out.